Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're just going to get started. So welcome to the Resident Self-Selection webinar. My name is Darina. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Transition and Engagement Student Lead at the Student Experience Office this summer. I'll be going into my 5th year of the concurrent education program here at Queens, and I will be your host for this webinar. And please note that this webinar is being recorded and it will be available for viewing on the Student Experience Office YouTube channel within a few business days. Next slide, please. So before we begin the webinar, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the history of the land on which Queen's University is located. As Canadians, we have a collective responsibility to recognize the injustices committed against Indigenous peoples who have lived on and cared for this land long before the arrival of European settlers. Queen's campus, which is where I'm joining you from today and which you can see in the picture on the slide there, is situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The Kingston area, originally known as Cataraqui, has been home to Indigenous communities for thousands of years and remains a place of significance and ongoing relationship for many Indigenous peoples today. As a student, I am very grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and study as an uninvited guest on this territory. It's very important to understand that Queen's University, like many institutions in Canada, was established through colonial systems that displaced Indigenous communities. As a settler and as a guest, I carry a responsibility to reflect on that history and to contribute to a more just, inclusive, and respectful future. If this information is new to you, or if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to explore the resources offered by the Office of Indigenous Initiatives and the Four Directions Indigenous Student Center, both online and on campus here at Queen's. Thank you so much for taking a moment to reflect with me. And now I'm going to pass it on to our main speaker for today, Tom, who is Manager of Residence Admissions here at Queen's. Welcome, Tom.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Serena, for that introduction, and thanks everyone for joining wherever you are in Canada or internationally. Thanks for making the time for this webinar. So how this presentation is going to go tonight, I'm just going to kind of do a very brief overview of residence. I'm going to talk about the self-selection process and share some what I hope is useful information for you. And then I'm actually going to walk you through what the self-selection portal and process looks like, so you can see what you're going to be doing within the next week or two. And then once I've done that, we'll be taking some questions and answering those. So thank you again for attending. And like I said, just want to kind of do a very quick overview of residence. So for those of you who have been to one of our webinars or one of our sessions in person, hopefully this information is familiar to you. We are a very highly residential university, and we have over 4,700 bed spaces across our 18 different buildings. You'll see that we have 2 campuses. So if you haven't kind of clocked that fact, we do have 2 campuses. We have main campus, where 16 of our residence buildings are located, and 2 residence buildings are located on our west campus. In total, over 2/3 of our rooms are single rooms. So either single rooms or what we call single plus, so single rooms that share a washroom with another room or another student. We have 3 dining halls, 1 on West Campus, 2 on main campus. You can eat at any of those dining halls. You're not restricted to a particular dining hall, and you're never more than about 850 or 900 meters from a dining hall wherever you are in residence. So because you're coming to Queen's, I know that you're good at maths, so that means that if just over 68% of our rooms are single or single plus, that means 32% of our rooms are shared rooms. So we have double rooms, we have triple rooms, we have quad rooms, and we also have loft doubles. And I'll show you some pictures of all of those in just a minute. In addition to first-year students living in residence, we do have 1 floor of up-year students, and we also have around 175 student leaders. These are either DONs, about 150 of them, or the resident society staff. So DONs are up-year students who are there to help build community, help you with your transition to residence and university. And resident society, or RedSoc as they're collectively known, are the student government in residence. So just a few other facts about residence. Of those 32% shared rooms, in total, about 24% are double rooms. So that means that 8% are those triples, quads, and loft doubles that I was talking about. We currently have two buildings for women, for people who identify as women. That's Adelaide Hall and Banbury Hall, and the remainder are mixed gender buildings and floors. So I mentioned our main campus and our West Campus, and you can see the walk between the two is, we've measured it, it's about 1.7 kilometers. And so, sorry, I'm just sort of seeing those notifications coming in. The majority of our residence buildings, like I said, are on main campus with two buildings at Jean Rice Hall. For able-bodied folks, so for non-disabled folk walking at a moderate rate, this typically takes between 15 to 20 minutes to get to be between the two campuses. And there is also a bus service, several bus routes actually, and you can access those bus routes using your student card as your bus pass. So I mentioned that we have those 6 different room types. So you can see pictures of all the room types in all our buildings on our website. If you haven't done that already, I really encourage you to hop on and have a look. They are representative, so single rooms will look different, even not necessarily even between buildings, but between floors in a building. Whereas the single plus, those typically do tend to be a bit more standardized as they are more recently built. But the point is that the photos that you see on the website are going to be a sample. They don't necessarily capture every single kind of iteration of every single room. So we just wanted to be aware that your specific room may vary in size and appearance. I also just want to address the fact that I said that about 68 or over 2/3 of our rooms are single or single plus. I did talk about West Campus as well. About 550 of our single rooms are at West Campus. So in the previous slide, you would have seen our examples of single rooms, single plus and double, and then these are just examples of what our loft double, triples and quads might look like. We do have photos for all our buildings online now. If you haven't been on recently, we did add photos for the John Deutsch University Centre, or JDUC, about a month ago. We'll also be updating the website with a bit more information about the washroom styles, particularly the buildings that have communal washrooms. We know at the moment they just say kind of communal washroom, but we'll be adding a bit more information to tell you if they're for male students, female, or all genders. So that will be updated in the next few days as well. Speaking of washrooms, and it is an important topic. So we have 4 different washroom types, and these can coexist within a residence building. So you may see kind of more than one washroom type in a building. So when you're looking at the building page online, it's going to tell you the kind of the default washroom style in that building. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the only washroom style. So for example, a single plus residence, so say we're looking at Brant House, the majority of those washrooms are going to be what we call that semi-private. So a washroom located between 2 single rooms, but there are also going to be some single rooms with private washrooms. And so the majority actually of single rooms with private washrooms are in John Deutsch University Centre, which I just mentioned a moment ago, but you can see they are in other residence buildings as well. We have 2 buildings, Victoria Hall and Chown Hall, where the default or predominant washroom style is single user. So with these washroom styles, you're the only person who would be using the space at one time, but anyone on the floor can access it. So you go in, you lock the door, you're the only person in that space. And then when you've finished, other people can access it, but only one person at a time. And then I think I kind of covered off what the private and semi-private washroom styles are like. And like I mentioned, the communal washrooms will be providing a little bit more detail about that before self-selection actually gets started. So in terms of self-selection itself, these are some of the kind of key dates that I know you're going to be looking for. So if you applied to a living learning community, you should have had an email already, either confirming your space in the living learning community or giving you an update saying that we weren't able to place you. tomorrow is when you're going to get your email that will tell you that you can access a self-selection date and time. We think that email is going to go out probably in the early afternoon of tomorrow. So it's not going to go out right at 8:30. Please don't worry, that email is going to come. Some folk have already received an email. Those are folks that we are likely going to have to manually place. So if you have a friend who's already received an email, that's because we just need a little bit more information for the folks that we're manually placing. You have not missed the boat or anything, I promise you. So general self-selection itself is going to be split out into a few different phases. So folks in living learning communities and unique communities are going to be kicking things off next week. And obviously, because you are living in a kind of a predefined community, a predefined residence building and floor, you will just see rooms in that location. So you only have access to rooms on that floor or floors. We did share that information on the website and in the application and in the email that we sent out a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully you're aware of where you're going to be living. And then a bit later on in that week, we're going to be running self-selection for students with approved accommodations. After that, it's going to be students who have requested to live in a loft double, just to make sure that you have access to those bed spaces. And then the vast majority of students, so about 3,800 students, are going to be choosing their rooms between July 23rd and July 25th. And so by that time, arts and science course selection and a lot of course selection should already have at least started, if not finished. So you should have an idea of where your classes are. So you might want to think about kind of factoring that information into where you choose your residence. Self-selection itself is going to end on the 25th. So while you have time in general self-selection to pick at any time once your self-selection window opens, you will have to pick by 4:30 p.m. on the 25th. For folks the week before, you will need to pick by 4 p.m. on the 17th. I do just want to note, we have a great team of people who are here to help you. If you run into an issue, if you have a question, please have a look at the website first before contacting us, because we do get a lot of people trying to contact us, particularly during general self-selection. Like I said, we have nearly 4,000 people over 2.5 days picking their room. So do have a look on the website first, or maybe come back to this recording to see if you can find your answer. If you are really running into trouble and it's something that isn't answered there, please do get in touch with us. We do ask that only one person contacts us, so we don't need kind of mum, dad, grandma, grandpa, and the dog all contacting us through the phone and email. We love to talk to people. We love to help. It does slow things down for us. It'll slow things down for you, and it'll slow things down for other people. So just one person needs to get in touch. Thanks. Alrighty, so the self-selection itself, there is a little bit of preparation that we recommend that you do. So we recommend looking at the floor plans, which are available online. They were updated, I think about a couple of months ago now, to show where the communal washrooms are, and also common rooms, and also elevators as well. We don't show room numbers on the public facing floor plans for privacy reasons. But you will see floor numbers when you enter the self-selection system itself. The floor plans do indicate which way is north. Lake Ontario is essentially to the south, so hopefully you can kind of orient yourself and figure out which way the lake is in relation to the residence building or buildings that you're interested in. Again, with 4,000 people, with them asking kind of, does my room face the lake? That's not a question that we are able to answer easily, because sometimes things get lost in translation. So we really encourage you to use the tools that are on the website. So we do embed a Google map on each building page of the website, and also indicate on that compass rose which way north is, so that you can do a bit of that planning. The floor plans themselves, like I said, will have slightly different formatting to the floor plans you see in the self-selection system. So the ones online at the moment are color-coded. whereas the ones that you see in the system are going to look a bit different, and I'll show you that in just a couple of minutes. So an early time slot is going to provide you more choice when you select, and a later time slot you will have less choice. We're going to be letting in around 20 students every 10 minutes into the system. You don't have to pick immediately when your window opens, but the longer you wait, the more students are going to have access to the system, and the more students are going to be choosing. So we do recommend, if you can, choosing your room when your window opens. And we do recommend having a few choices in mind prior to selecting your room, looking at kind of multiple buildings and room types as well. This is particularly germane for folks who are maybe later along in the process, where you may not be able to kind of get your first choice room. And so instead of kind of hunting through the inventory, trying to find a room, and more people coming into the system, you have that kind of list ready to go. So I don't want to kind of, cause any concern or alarm. You do have time to choose, but we just want you to kind of be prepared for those scenarios. When you are looking at multi-occupancy rooms, you'll see online, like I said, we have pictures of kind of representative rooms. So they are real rooms. Not necessarily all rooms are going to have all the same amenities, and what we guarantee are the number of bed spaces. So in a quad, there'll be 4 beds, in a triple 3 beds. Sometimes there are some other amenities, like small kitchenettes, but those are not guaranteed. So we just want to kind of be kind of transparent about that as part of the room selection process. So you've done your kind of prep, you've looked online, you've looked at the floor plans, you've looked at the pictures, and then and you've made your list. Once you are looking to get into the system, we just want to let you know that it is a graphical system, or has a graphical interface, and so we really recommend using a desktop or laptop computer. Not doing it on phone, you can, but it is easier to do it on a laptop or desktop. And also having reliable high-speed internet, if you can. We do have a way for folk who maybe, if you live in an area where you don't have kind of good internet, or if you're going to be away, we do have a system where we can help you out. So please do contact us at Resident Submissions, and we can kind of let you know what that process is. Like I said, so if you are taking part, you are able to choose a room. We do recommend choosing at the time that your window opens. I mentioned, yeah, we'll be admitting about 20 students every 10 minutes into the system. So if you are choosing in the week of July 14th, like I mentioned, you're going to have until 4:30 on this, on the 18th actually, to make your selection. And then if you are in general self-selection, you'll be able to choose up until Friday. So just a couple of things that are kind of small things, but I do want to kind of bring them up now, just so that you again have that information before you go into the system. John Deutsch University Centre, or JDUC, used to be known as graduate residence. The residence is only for undergraduate students. It's not for graduate students, so it's a bit of a misnomer. But because it used to be called graduate residence, the rooms in that building are going to be coded with a GR at the beginning for graduate. So most other buildings, so again for Brand is going to be BT or Adelaide AED, and obviously for JDUC it's GR. So just do want to kind of flag that so that you know you are picking from the right building. Our system is automated, so once a bed is picked, it will not be available for another person to pick. There are going to be some rooms that are not available for selection right off the bat. Someone else may have already occupied the space. It might be a dorm room, things like that. So if you can see a room, you can pick that room. And it will also, when you're looking at multi-occupancy rooms, it will show you rooms that align with your gender. So single multi-occupancy rooms, so doubles, triples, loft doubles, also applies to single plus. So when one person picks one half of a single plus, it's going to gender the other side of the suite as well. Once you've picked your room, it's going to be on hold for you for 5 minutes. So you do have time just to kind of, take a beat, look at it, make sure it is the room that you want. I'm going to, particularly if you're looking at double rooms, if you don't want a loft double, there is information and kind of signage about that. But that's definitely something you're going to want to check. But once you submit your selection, that's it. It's final. Again, with in total nearly 5,000 people selecting their rooms, we can't go back and change rooms because it then just gets really, really complicated. So do take that time to review your selection and make sure it's one that you're comfortable with. Okay, so after self-selection. So if you are in a living learning community or a unique community or a loft double or have an approved accommodation, then we are going to manually assign you before general self-selection starts. And that's because we want to make sure that you have the bed space that aligns with your approved accommodation or because you're in that particular community. If you're in general self-selection and you don't choose your bed space, then we'll be contacting you to confirm that you want to live in residence. You will be required to confirm that, and then we'll be assigning you to a room based on the available inventory. Bed spaces in multi-occupancy rooms themselves are allocated on a first come, first serve basis. So when you go into the system, and I'll show you this again, like the bed spaces don't always kind of where the icons are, where the graphics are on the screen, don't always line up exactly with where the actual physical beds are in the room. So you'll be picking a bed space in general self-selection, and then when you move in, the first person to move into the room will choose the bed space. The self-selection dates and times. So it is unique to you based on your kind of specific living arrangement. And if you, I do want to stress though that they're not transferable between different groups. So for example, if you are in a roommate group, that's actually running in tandem with the general self-selection system. And so the idea behind that is that you have access to multi-occupancy rooms because you're in a roommate group. So if you are the 10th person choosing from a roommate group, you would not be, that does not mean that you would be the 10th person choosing in general self-selection. So sometimes people do want to opt out of their roommate groups. My point is that your self-selection date and time, if you move into general self-selection, will change. And it may well be later. And if you're in a roommate group and your roommate has a self-selection date and time that is even a few hours later than yours, that could significantly change their self-selection date and time in general self-selection. Alrighty, so I'm going to walk you through the self-selection system now. I'm just going to be kind of switching screens. Just want to note that my screen is going to look a little bit different to how yours looks, but the fundamental aspects are going to be the same. And I'm going to have to look at my other screen, so I'm going to turn my video off now so you don't have to look at my slide profile. I am still here though. Okay, so you're going to be logging into the student residence and dining portal, and hopefully that's something that you're familiar with. So that's going to take you to a sign-on page where you're going to put in your net ID. So that's usually a letter and a bunch of characters at queency.ca, and then your password. And then that's going to take you into your portal. And like I said, yours is going to look a little bit different to mine, but the main thing is that you should see an icon with the resident self-selection when it is time for you to enter self-selection. Tomorrow, after the email goes out saying that you can see your self-selection date and time, this is where it will be. We won't actually put the self-selection date and time in the email. We'll say it's ready for you to view in the portal. So then it will tell you exactly when you can begin self-selection. Okay, of course it logged out, so I can show you exactly what you're going to be doing. You're going to put in your net ID to know. and still see this resident self-selection icon here. So you're going to click on that. And there is some information that we really encourage you to read and digest before you just hit the next step button. So there's information about where the unique communities are going to be. So those are our alcohol and cannabis not preferred community, women identified unique community, pet friendly and study floor. Also that information about JDUC that I shared with you, loft doubles, like I said, and just a reminder that bed space selections are final. So you click on the next button, and when you go in, you're going to see two ways that you can choose a room. The first one is by using these drop downs here. So whenever you make a selection, you do have to hit the search button at the bottom to actually see that room type. It doesn't just automatically update. So let's go ahead and search for quad room. So if at the moment both campuses are bounded in yellow, that means that there are rooms available on both campuses. But when I search for quad room, what you're going to see is there are no quads on West Campus. So it's bounded by red. So we can either go again, like I said, through the graphical interface. I'll do this first. So click on main campus, and then we will see there are several buildings that are bounded in yellow, so it tells you that the quad room is available in those buildings. And then you can just select one. So for example, Victoria Hall. It will tell you that it's on the second floor again. The second floor is bounded by yellow. You click into that, and then you can see that there's a quad room here. When you roll your mouse over the bed space, you will see the room number there. But like I said, you are not necessarily choosing the bed that is in the kind of bottom left-hand corner of the room. You can search for rooms a different way. So you can search for a double room and again, click the search button and then kind of do it through these drop downs off the left side. So if you have memorized all the building names and you know that it's Morris, for example, that you want, and then you see that there are a few double rooms on first, second, and third floor, you can then click in, and you do have to drill down on those options just to see the bed spaces. So for example, here where I clicked Morris third floor, you don't actually see any rooms available. You do have to go down one level and click on that, and then lo and behold, you see those double room options for you right there. There are other things that you can search for. So hopefully, if you do require a carpet-free room, you've already put in a health accommodation request for that. But if you haven't and you are looking for a carpet-free, for example, you can search for carpet-free rooms. And be ditto for long beds as well. I did mention difference between double rooms and loft double rooms. So at the moment, as we were talking about, we were looking at double rooms right now. Actually, if we look at a loft double, you're going to see that the graphical representation is the same between a loft double and a double. So using these filters on the left-hand side is really, really handy to make sure that you are searching for the type of bed space that you want. But if you do click on a loft double, thinking that it's a double, what's going to happen is, there we go, you are going to see information about the room. So it's going to tell you the bed space number. It's going to, and then if you lose that, you can click back on this handy link that says click here. It is going to tell you that it's a loft double right here. So do review that information before finishing, because once you click finish, you're going to be locked in. You can release the lock. So once you do that, it's going to kick you back to the beginning. For you to choose another room. Obviously, we do want you to take time to make sure that you have the right room. And at the same time, within those 5 minutes, then obviously other people may be choosing rooms. So when you get back to this screen, the numbers may look a little bit different. And so a room that you may have been looking at may have been selected by someone else. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to choose that loft double in Victoria Hall on the second floor. And again, you can see the room or the bed space number. We can see the building that it's in. We can see that it's a loft double. We can see that it's carpet free. We can see the type of washroom. So all that information that we were talking about earlier is viewable there. And then once you go down, so you're going to click on the finish button, and then there should be a confirmation page that pops up, and that will also send you an email that confirms your bed space. There we go. Yeah, so happy to see that it works. This will confirm all the information and along with your bed space, and then that information will be sent to you via email as well. I do want to note that if you aren't happy with your room, don't go into the portal and cancel your application. That doesn't just cancel your bed space, it cancels your application to residents as well. There is a room change form that opens in early to mid-September, and that would be how you change room. Don't go in and cancel your application, then try and reselect, because it'll just cancel your application to residents. It won't cancel your room selection. Okay. So okay, so hopefully that kind of gave you a bit of an overview of what the actual self-selection is going to look like. And I know that we have some questions, or a lot of questions coming through. So we've done that. We are now here, yes, at the Q&A session. So please do keep asking questions in the Q&A feature. We'll do our best to get through as many of them as we can in the time that we have. There is a lot of information on the website, so like I said, I know I keep on talking about this, but really do encourage you to look at the website for information about self-selection and the buildings and rooms.
I'm just going to jump in here. Thank you so much, Tom, for that amazing, really thorough walkthrough. And just to let everyone know, to access the Q&A feature of the webinar, in case you haven't seen it yet, it should be at the bottom right corner of your screen. It says Q&A right on there, and you have the option to be anonymous if that makes you more comfortable. We are here to make sure that you all feel as confident and ready as possible before resident self-selection. So please let us know any questions that you might have. We have a lovely team here on the back end to answer all your questions. And if we could go to the next slide, please, Tom, there's a list of key resources and contact information on there to be visible during the Q&A. Excellent. So these are just some links that you might want to save or reference during the Q&A period if maybe they're related to your question. We're also going to be answering some questions live on here. So please feel free to send in your questions and we'll get started. So starting with a question that I'm seeing pop up a lot on here. How do we know what our self-selection date and time is? Tom, I'll let you take this one.
Thanks, Trina. Yeah, so for folks who maybe kind of joined a little bit late, we're going to be sending out an email tomorrow on Thursday, likely kind of early afternoon, but it will be tomorrow, I guarantee it. It won't be at 8:30 in the morning, but we will send out an email tomorrow, likely early afternoon, and that is going to tell you that your self-selection date and time is ready for viewing in the student residence and dining portal. The email itself is not going to contain that information. It's going to direct you to the portal where you can see your self-selection date and time.
Thank you so much, Tom. So look out for that email tomorrow, everyone. And for our next question, there's a lot of questions about what students should do if they run into technical issues during the self-selection process. So what kind of support is available if someone were to run into technical issues during that process?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I mentioned kind of people calling a little bit earlier. We do also have email and live chat running. So to the point I made earlier, we do ask that just one person get in touch and also just using one communication channel. So we do have people on the phones, we will have people on live chat and email as well. So again, it just makes it a little bit more complicated if you're sending us a live chat and someone else is emailing us and someone else is trying to call us on the phone, trying to kind of tie those pieces together, making sure that we're getting kind of the right information. It can slow us down and our response to you if multiple people are getting in touch, and also kind of slowing down our responses for other people. So we will get to you, I promise.
Thank you so much for that answer, Tom. Very important to have only one person getting in touch. For our third question, and I know this is a very common worry of many people that maybe are going on summer vacations or to cottages, places that don't have internet access. Question number 3, what happens if I miss or am not available for my self-selection window?
Absolutely. So if you know that you're not going to be available, we do have a kind of a process in place. So I encourage you to contact us at reshouse at queensu.ca. So that's the email address you can see on the screen at the moment. And we can kind of let you know what your options are. If you for any reason don't manage to make it to self-selection, we're going to be contacting you. If you're in general self-selection, that is, we'll be contacting you likely on the 25th, just to say kind of, hey, we noticed that you didn't take part in self-selection. At that point, we will be asking you to confirm that you do plan to live in residence for the upcoming school year, just so that we can make sure that we have a bed space for you. Like I said, if you're in a living learning community, unique community, loft double, or with a food accommodation, we'll manually place you before the general self-selection starts, just so that we know that you have a bed space in the right type of bed space or the right floor before general self-selection starts.
Thank you so much, Tom. For question number 4, I think I can tackle this one. How can I access the residence and dining portal? I lost the link to the website and I can't find it anywhere. And I remember having this exact same problem when I was coming into first year, because it is a little bit tricky once you start looking at all those different links. There's so much information getting thrown at you. So to make it nice and easy for you folks, I'll read out the URL, but also someone will paste it into the chat momentarily. So you can access the residence and dining portal by going to queensu.ca/residence/resources/portal and clicking on the Visit Student Residence and Dining Portal button. And that should be right there in the chat. Someone should send it momentarily. So feel free to copy and paste that somewhere safe for you to access in the future, whether that's your notes app on your phone, somewhere on your computer, or just a screenshot. For our next question, I'm seeing a lot of questions in the Q&A regarding unique communities. This question is, can I request to be added to a unique community or apply to a living learning community right now? And Tom, I'll let you tackle this one.
Thank you. Yeah, so the short answer is unfortunately not. We are at a point where we need to kind of stabilize our inventory and also make sure that we've allocated the right folk to the right bed spaces, or will have access to the right bed spaces. And so unfortunately, we do need to kind of have a cutoff. And so it's not possible to join a unique community or apply to a living learning community at the moment.
Thank you, Tom. For our next question, how long is the time slot for self-selection again?
So this is a kind of I guess, a couple of answers to this. So the first part is that we will be letting in about 20 students every 10 minutes into the system. But then how long your time slot is not just 10 minutes. You will have until the end of your self-selection period to choose your room. And so the balance really is kind of, we do encourage you to pick your room when the window opens. it's also okay just to kind of take a breath, log in, just kind of, if you kind of take 30 seconds, hopefully a little bit longer, just to kind of familiarize yourself again with the interface, and then move forward, and then just hopefully you have that list of rooms where you can kind of pick your first choice, or if that isn't available, your second or third choice. Take a bit of time to review things before you hit final or finish, because like I said, bed selections are final. So we release more students into the system every 10 minutes, but you do not have to choose your room within those 10 minutes. We just encourage it.
Thank you, Tom. And just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded and posted to YouTube. So if you'd like to go back and rewatch the portion of the webinar where Tom is sharing his screen as he's going through the self-selection process, you're more than welcome to do that to be extra ready when your turn comes. For our next question, are we able to change roommates? Tom, I'll let you tackle this one.
Thanks. Yeah. So again, we know sometimes kind of things can change. So some people in roommate groups may want to opt out. And like I said, if you do that, then your self-selection date and time for picking a multi-occupancy room is not going to directly translate over into general self-selection. It will change. And so if you, like I said, if you get a self-selection date and time at say kind of 9 o'clock on the first day of general self-selection, like, that is not going to be for picking a multi-occupancy room, that is not going to be what your self-selection date and time would be for general self-selection, where you see all room types. It will change, and so we just want you to be aware of that. And like I said, because everyone in a multi-occupancy room has their own self-selection date and time, if you're in a double and you opt out, that means that your roommate, your friend, is then going to have a new self-selection date and time allocated to them. And depending on how far behind you they are in that kind of roommate group, once that in general self-selection, they could be several hours or even a day behind you. So do think about the impact of opting out of a roommate group, and but we can do that because we know that things do change. But in terms of if you select a room and maybe you don't have a roommate, and you want to change rooms because you're not sure about the other person in your room, we do have a process, but that will only open in kind of early to mid-September, and we do room changes based on need and priority, not first come, first served.
Thank you so much for that answer, Tom. Very important information. I'm seeing a lot of questions about roommates, actually. So why don't we answer this one? Can I form a roommate group right now at this point in the process?
I feel like I'm saying no, unfortunately not. So at the moment, really, folks can kind of opt out of things that we can't, but not opt into. So we can't form new roommate groups at the moment. But like I said, folks can opt out of roommate groups. So it's not possible to form a new roommate group at this time. Sorry.
All right, thank you so much. All right, question number 9. How does self-selection work with approved accommodations?
I feel like multi-part kind of answer is my thing. So as far as possible, we try and let everyone choose their own bed space. So if you have an approved accommodation, you are going to have access to a range of rooms that meet your approved accommodation. So say you have been approved for a single room with semi-private washroom, you are going to see a range or a cross-section of all of our single plus single rooms with a semi-private washroom across the buildings that have that room style. You are not going to see every single plus room. You're not going to see all 1,300 of them, but you are going to see more rooms than there are people in that group who are selecting a single plus, so you do have choice. It is tied to your accommodation. So for example, folks who are picking a single room with semi-private washroom, you are not going to see single rooms with private washrooms. Likewise, if you have been approved for a single room, you are only going to see single rooms, and this information was shared in the health accommodation approval you would have received. And like I mentioned right at the beginning of the webinar, about 500 of our single rooms are at West Campus. So when I say you're going to see a cross-section of all of our buildings that have a single room, it's going to include some rooms at West Campus as well. Because our goal, basically having an accommodation, our goal is to make sure you have access to a bed space that meets your need. It's not necessarily kind of a jump straight to the front of the line to have first pick. It is about having access to the bed space that meets your need. And I should mention there are a handful of folks who we are manually placing. I think I addressed that very briefly earlier. If you're in that situation, like I said, you should have got an email about that. So please follow the instructions in the email.
Thank you so much, Tom. That was an amazing multi-part answer, very thorough. Again, I encourage folks to rewatch this video if required and visit all the links. All right. For question number 10, I think I'm going to take that one if that's okay. Question is, where can I find advice on which residence room to pick? So if you're looking for something like personal advice from other Queen's students that have also been through the same residence selection process and have lived in the residences themselves, a great option that I would mention that's actually available to you right now is coffee chats with upper year peer ambassadors. So right now we are in the middle of SOAR, which is virtual summer orientation. And you've certainly been getting some emails about that. There's a lot of different pieces to SOAR if you choose to participate in that. One of the largest pieces of SOAR is that we have a team of upper year peer ambassadors that are very excited to chat with incoming students and answer all kinds of questions that they might have. So one thing that you can do is connect with the upper year PAs through booking a coffee chat, which is basically like a virtual call. It can be a private one-on-one call, or it can be a small group call with other students. And someone will paste the link in the chat to SOAR momentarily, so you can check that out. You can totally book as many coffee chats as you want. Another thing you can do is you can download the Viva Engage app. We've got a tutorial on how to do that on our YouTube page, as well as on that SOAR webpage. And through there, you can access our online app where you'll be in communities sorted by your faculty. For example, if you're in health science, you're already placed into a community with health science students. In there, you can chat both with each other, so other incoming first years in your program, and also with the upper year students. So if you're ever looking for something like advice on maybe which residence best suits your specific needs or something like that, that's more of kind of personal advice, I would highly recommend checking that out, as well as for any other questions you might have regarding first year. And for the next question, all right, Tom, I'll let you tackle this one. How will the room type be determined for each student?
Yeah, good question. So I know that yeah, like different schools have different kind of ways of placing students or kind of allocating rooms. And so I guess what is very obvious to me, I know is not always obvious for new folks, which is why we're doing this webinar. So for folks who are kind of joining us late, so we have a self-selection process where you actually go into the system, you're going to be choosing the room yourself. So if you're in a living learning community or a unique community, or if you have an approved accommodation, or you have asked to be in a loft double, you're going to be in kind of essentially kind of a mini self-selection group, and you will choose a room that matches your approved accommodation or is on the floor of your living learning community. So that's how your rooms are going to be defined. For everyone else, it's essentially you choose from the bed spaces that are available at the time of your general self-selection date and time. And so the earlier your self-selection date and time, the more choice you're going to have. And as you move through the process, so if you're halfway through general self-selection, you're going to see roughly, kind of 50% of the inventory, and the 50% of the inventory that you see is going to be determined by what other people have chosen.
Thank you so much, Tom. And speaking of bed spaces, maybe we can clarify that term a little bit. So our next question is, can I choose a specific bed in a multi-occupancy room?
Yeah, I think I answered that maybe a little while, but I know that people are kind of joining us late. So the so you choose a specific bed space in the sense that they are all labeled and have a unique number, but actually the position of the icon in the self-selection system does not correspond to the location of the room, the physical layout in the actual room. And so when you're going to self-selection, you are choosing a bed space. And most of the time I use the word bed space because if we talk about multiple occupancy rooms, there's more than one bed in a room. So it's not, let's say you're choosing the room, you're choosing a bed space. But then it'll be the first person to move in would then choose the bed that they are going to be in, like I said, just because oftentimes the actual icons don't kind of line up with the physical locations of the beds in the rooms.
Amazing. Thank you so much. For our next question, this one I feel might be particularly relevant to international or out of province students. Question is residence guaranteed for the 4 years that I'm at Queen's? Do I have to apply for residence each year?
Uh, yeah, so the answer is no, it's not guaranteed for 4 years. It's not guaranteed beyond first year for the folks who are living in residence this year. Typically each year we have a floor of one building for upper year students. This year it's about 37 spaces we have. So the vast majority of folks are going to be living off campus. We have a great off-campus living advisor office who has lots of great resources and staff who can help you with that. You can apply for one of those kind of limited upper year spaces, and we typically get about 150 applications. So we run a lottery to determine who's given access to those spaces.
Amazing. Thank you so much. For our next question, this will be our last question before we unfortunately have to end the Q&A portion of the webinar. If I'm in a roommate group with a specific roommate already, do we both have to go through the self-selection process or only one of us?
That's actually a really great question because I don't think I addressed that. So so everyone gets a self-selection date and time, but if you're in a double, triple, quad, only one of you needs to go into the self-selection system to choose a room. Typically, it will be the person with the earliest self-selection date and time, but it's up to you as a group. But the person who goes in, or the first person that goes in, will choose a room, and then that is going to kind of drag the other people in with them. So the short answer is only one person in a roommate group needs to go into the self-selection system and choose the room.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And actually, I think we do have room for one more question. So this next one will be our final question. When is the deadline to pay residence fees?
So the deadline, we're still finalizing that with the registrar's office, but it will be on or potentially shortly before the due date for tuition and fees, which I believe is September 1 this year. So we're going to be sending information about when those fees are due, and we will be publishing that on the website, and we'll be posting the fees around mid-August. So either way, you'll have at least a couple of weeks to pay fees before the deadline.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And one more question, specifically a personal question to you, Tom. To end us off, what final piece of advice would you give students to best prepare for their self-selection date and time?
I mean, I've been kind of talking about doing the research. I think know that there's a great team of people who are here to help you through the self-selection process, but also when you move into residence. So if you don't get your first choice, really encourage you not to be kind of disheartened by that. Residence is really going to be kind of what you make of it, how you kind of interact with your peers, with the dons, the activities that you get involved in. So wherever you are, there will be opportunities for you to do that. We know that where you live is really important. you know, a lot of you are going to be moving away from home for the first time, and we want you to have agency over that, which is why we have the self-selection system. And at the same time, we want you to know that maybe if you don't get your first choice, like everything is going to be okay. There's, like I said, lots of people who are going to make sure you have a great time in residence and support your transition, not just to residence, but to Queen's. So the self-selection process is important. Do your research, but also, you know, I think just kind of take a beat, take a deep breath, and just know that everything is going to be okay. And if you get your first choice of room, fantastic. But either way, I guarantee you're going to have a great time in residence.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. And I can totally echo that and reassure that I'm completely sure that each and every one of you will have a very special experience in residence. And yeah, no matter what ends up happening with your self-selection. So unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for the Q&A today. I completely recognize that we weren't able to get to everyone's question, but thank you so much for joining us. And all of those channels that we mentioned remain open, such as the residence email, if you have any more questions at any time about anything here. And Tom, if you could just go to the next slide, please. So right before you leave, I want to just make sure that you're aware there's lots of more upcoming events this summer for incoming first-year students just like you, as well as their parents and supporters. Tomorrow is actually going to be our second offering of the guided virtual campus tour from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. This is a great opportunity to see Queen's campus from the comfort of your own home and learn more about student life. You can register for the session on the events calendar on the Student Experience Office website. And on Saturday, we will have our first virtual social, which will be called Faculty Olympics SOAR Showdown. This will be a team-based trivia challenge that will give you the opportunity to collaborate with other incoming first-year students. And this is the perfect way to win points for your faculty for the SOAR Cup, which is a challenge we have going on during our virtual orientation right now. You can also meet your future classmates, which might be really awesome because maybe you'll see them around residence. You can register for this by logging into your Viva Engage community and finding the pinned post at the top. Starting on Monday, next Monday, we will have our faculty and school specific webinars. And this is where you'll learn more about your program and meet some key staff and faculty. For students in the Faculty of Arts and Science, this will include webinars specifically about course registration. So we had a few questions about course registration in the Q&A. Make sure you attend those webinars and ask those questions there. If you're unsure about what courses you're supposed to be taking or how course selection functions, you don't want to miss these webinars. They will be very similar to the one here that we had Tom do today, where they'll do a walkthrough for you. And we will also be having many more webinars just like this one all summer long. If you check out the events calendar on the Student Experience Office website, you can register for any upcoming webinars that interest you or are relevant to you. And I really hope to see everyone there. I'll be hosting a lot of them. So just to conclude, thank you so much to our presenter, Tom, and all of our backend support staff for their time this evening. And thank you so much to everyone at home for attending. Whether you are an incoming student, a parent, or a supporter, we really hope that this session helped you feel more confident and ready for resident self-selection. And we hope that you have a great time next year and you join us for more orientation events.